Hello everybody, here we are today talking about Dustin Wolf and if you won the Calder trophy this season. But before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So every year before we see the season begin, we have the Calder trophy predictions, and I think a lot of people get excited for a ton of reasons. One of those being just kind of seeing how the rookie class will do, and that is always one of those things that is unpredictable. But I also think that the fact that the award is relatively unpredictable compared to things like the Rocket is also really enticing, and one of those big reasons why people say this is just going to be up in the air as to who could go out there and possibly claim it. But I do think one of the other things you could kind of add on here too is that for some teams and franchises, they have those Calder eligible players that could go out there and win it, and that's why I think some teams really get excited about that. Not everybody can go out there and say they're going to have players that could win the Calder, but for some teams and some fans, I think it's one of those deals where you're hoping that by winning the Calder, it's kind of an inclination about where a player's career is headed. And in the case of Dustin Wolf, Calgary Flames fans are probably hoping that he goes out there and wins it, and that would be a big deal. And I think it would be a big deal for about three reasons. One, we have not seen the Calgary Flames have a player win the Calder since 1990, Sergei Makarov. That is a story in and of itself as a 31-year-old player that won it, so something that hasn't happened in 35 years. Two, we have not seen a goalie win in a long time, over 15 years. 2009, Steve Mason with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And that would also kind of be a big deal because this is pretty heavily favored towards forwards right now in that regard. And it would be nice to see a goalie do something that hasn't been done in getting close to about 20 years. And then three, you have, of course, the fact that Calgary has not made the playoffs in 2 years and was not expected to make it again this year as well too. So if the Flames go out there and make it with a young goalie that also snapped nearly 20 goals or 20 years of history as well as 35 years of history, I think it would be kind of something special in a year where the Flames are doing much better than anticipated. But let's go out there and talk about the numbers before we get ahead of ourselves. Is this something where it's not that great of a Calder race or that his numbers are just all right? No, he's actually having some really good numbers. He has a record of 18-7-2. And did start off the year where things weren't perfect, and up until relatively recently, obviously things were not as good as they could be, but it's kind of the good thing about the Calder. It's not the hard where you have to truly be dominant. In this regard, you have a younger class of players that are going to go out there and maybe struggle a little bit, but may find their groove and have that ability to go out there and win it. He has an 8-2-0 record over his past 10 games with a .916 save percentage. And I think importantly here, while there have been some struggles, one thing we could point out is the fact that there has not been those games where things really get out of control and the Flames just aren't going to be able to go out there and possibly win it. There have been a decent amount of games where he's allowed 4 goals for sure, but there's only been 2 games out of the 27 that he's played this year where he's allowed more than 4. So 5 definitely feels like it's an insurmountable thing. 4, you're like, maybe if we can push it, get a late goal, go to overtime, we can win it. I know that's just kind of one of those excuses you can make, but 3 goals is something you probably strive for or less in today's league. But in this case, for a rookie, especially over his past 10 games where he's only allowed more than 3 goals on one occasion, that is good. And then also you look at the fact that his goals saved above average per 60 is the 3rd best out of goalies that have played at least 1,500 minutes this season. So that's a list of 26 goalies. That is really impressive. So 3rd out of 26 players, again, great. And then his high danger save percentage is also really good, especially for a rookie. So that is nice when you have the potential spotlight of the playoffs coming up, and he might have to go out there and make some big saves in front of a big audience. That being said, will he go out there and win the Calder? Well, I think it is hard to say because this is not really the norm for goalies to go out there and win it. And I think he's got the narrative kind of going against him in a lot of regards because there are 3 players that are really doing well right now in terms of the Calder race: Lane Hudson, Macklin Celebrini, and Matvei Mishkov. They've all kind of got things going for them. Lane Hudson playing for a historic Habs team that is kind of on the rebound right now, as well as, again, being 3rd on the team, I think, for points and 1st among defensemen. That's a really good story there. Macklin Celebrini, top 10 pick that is 2nd in points right now for the rookie class. He is, again, part of the past 10 years, if you look at this, where the forwards are heavily in favor, but especially top 10 picks. I think have won it 8 out of the past 10 times. Number 1 overall pick, kind of seems fitting that they'd go out there and win it. And then Matvei Mishkov is, again, kind of hyped up as the next big potential Russian star. So those narratives right away you can see kind of fit the kind of interesting story of why somebody could go out there and win the Calder, as I've said kind of way too many times. But I want to paint the narrative for Wolf and why he should go out there and win this, and I think it's pretty interesting. So let me go out there and just tell you, well, you see a team in Calgary that wasn't expected to do a whole lot this year that is above the playoff line. And this is a side that maybe some people would say, well, he got put in a better position compared to other rookies. This team is nowhere near championship caliber, and I think he's doing his part to help get them to the postseason. They rank 28th in the league for goals for per 60. They have guys like Yegor Sharangovich and Andrei Kuzmenko that are having big down years, especially Kuzmenko, who is just an odd player in and of itself. Then you go to the defensive numbers and say, well, Calgary has been really good defensively for some years. This year, they are not a good team. They're bottom 10 in a lot of categories. They give up a lot of shots. They give up a lot of scoring chances. And then on the PK, they are also hurting him as well, too. They are not just a bottom 10 team. They're a bottom 5 team in that regard. Not just the PK percentage, but a lot of those numbers. So when you have a young goalie going to a team where the expectations are low, they're not scoring a ton of goals, their defensive numbers aren't that impressive, especially at something like the PK, you would see the obvious reasons as to why a goalie could fold under that pressure, but instead they are above the cut line in that final wildcard spot and could somehow make the playoffs when I really didn't think that would be the case for this year. If that is not worthy of possibly being a Calder finalist, I don't know what is. So at the end of the day, he may not go out and win the Calder. It's not the end of the world. Again, winning the Calder is really nice, but it's more about what you do after that in your career where you elevate your game. You don't want to just be the best of a small rookie class. You want to be the best of the league at one point. But again, it is something that is possibly a good indicator about where your career could be headed. But when it's all said and done, there is no reason why he shouldn't be a Calder finalist. And I think that with the way things are headed, that he could very well go out there and deserve to win the Calder as the year progresses, as he possibly hits 30 wins, as his numbers look pretty good for the course of the year. I believe he's got a save percentage above .920 for the season. All, again, things that are really good, taking in consideration some of the things that could be holding him back. And I just kind of am impressed considering that this team has seen so much turnover in recent years as they went from a team that was competing for the spot in the division, top spot in the Pacific, to being a side that is retooling. But Wolf is kind of being the big bad guy there in that regard, helping Calgary possibly, maybe, do something in the playoffs. I guess we'll see. So anyway, what are your thoughts on Dustin Wolf? Do you think that he should win the Calder this year, or do you think that he should be a finalist? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you love hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.